Hello and welcome back to our tutorial. I'm gonna log out from the Director of Studies user and log in as a teacher. So I'm just gonna sign out here. And I log back in as a teacher to see which privileges the teacher has to use in our system. Okay, now I'm logged in as a teacher, and as you can see, a teacher has different modules from the director, which has different modules from the Director of Studies, and for him or her there is a timetable module which can help them create their schedule from when to when they're gonna be teaching certain classes. But before we get into this, once users have been created in the system, the next step consists of importing the syllabuses. I was saying, once users have been created in the system, the next step consists of importing syllabuses into the application. This is what we just saw with the Director of Studies. And now as a teacher, we gonna get to create what is called in the teacher's parlance, or universally also known as a scheme of work. So what is a scheme of work? A scheme of work is a kind of plan that outlines all the learning to be covered over a given period of time, usually one term. It is different from a syllabus, which is a document outlining which topics and skills are to be covered for a given subject. The main function of a scheme of work is that they help teachers plan and sequence their lessons in advance. That way they can make sure that all course content is taught before the school year ends, and that the national curriculum has been covered. So after a pilot phase that EJO Africa Limited conducted in one local school, namely Lycée de Kigali, it has come to our attention that filling of scheme of works are a requirement for all teachers at the beginning of each term and for all subjects covered by the national curriculum that they are teaching. This is usually done by filling of paper forms that teachers archive and submit to their respective Director of Studies. These filled up papers are then stored at the school to be retrieved only when a report or inspection is due. There is no digitization of this important aspect of the daily routine of teachers, despite the fact that this data, as we have found out, is so important to understand in real time the progress of the education at various schools. What we did with EJO is to capture this process as the academic year progresses and to extract meaning and value in the analysis of each student's performance. So without further ado, let's dive into, now that we know what a scheme of work is, let's dive into how we use the EJO application to facilitate teachers in filling up of this information, and how they can do it very easily using the application we developed for them. Okay, so as we saw, I'm now logged in as Galaxy Teacher, which is a fictitious teacher in a fictitious school that we called Galaxy University of Houye. And now they have a module to schedule their timetable. This is just an added bonus for teachers who want to know which classes they'll be teaching from when to when, and the academic year and the term and the course. I can add a timetable here, and voila. So now I know that from Monday from 7 a.m. to 7 a.m., which is not realistic, however, there's no time lapse between 7 a.m. to 7 a.m. Galaxy Teacher will be teaching molecular biology first term for this academic year, but that's not the crucial part. This is just an added bonus, some sort of calendar for for the teacher. What we are here to watch is to see how schemes of work, which is a requirement for teachers to fill at the beginning of every term are filled up using our application. So they're gonna have to access it through this teacher, Galaxy Teacher, is gonna access the Scheme of Work module by simply clicking on the left menu to the Scheme of Work link. And for the moment, since this is a new blank institution with no content, they're gonna be asked to, there are no Scheme of Work for the moment, and they're gonna be asked to add one, which they can do by simply clicking on the little plus button. And now they are in the module where they are adding a new Scheme of Work. So Scheme of Work is basically, they're gonna say which class they'll be teaching, and for the academic year, for the term, and which course, and the number of periods per week, let's say 10, and the reference, okay? So reference. Now they add the Scheme of Work and voila, but this is just the first stage. Now that the Scheme of Work is in the system, the Scheme of Work is comprised of lessons. So basically what this teacher just said is that they will be teaching molecular biology in Senior 5, and it has 10 periods per week, and it is this academic year. Now, as we saw in the beginning of the video where the director of study was configuring the courses, a course is comprised of units. So the teacher must specify each unit that they'll be teaching and when. And usually they do it by filling up a little form. We don't see why this process shouldn't be digitized and widely accessible to inspectors, director, and other director of study, and why not REB and the government. So let's say if right now I'm an inspector for a given umurenge, I'm sorry, how can I say umurenge in English? Akarere, district, for a given district, I need to inspect teacher, Galaxy Teacher from Galaxy University, and know whether he's been teaching molecular biology. Right now, as we speak, the way I would do it is I would have to leave my office and head over to Galaxy University Huye and ask the director of study to hand me over the schemes of work and the lesson plans for this teacher, for this lesson, and see which class and which he's been teaching. The process of retrieving that information can take days because the way that they pile up this document at the school is really not user friendly, to say the least, and we see not why this information shouldn't be accessible over the internet with people, of course, with proper access, not publicly available, as this can end up being very sensitive information. So I was saying that this is how I've just configured the title of my scheme of work. Now I'm gonna add a lesson. Let me first view lessons. If I click on view lessons here, I'm gonna be told that there's no lesson in this scheme of work for the moment. Please add some. Okay, so I'm gonna add some lessons. What will I be teaching? Let's say the academic year starts on September 9th. From September 9th to September 18th, 15th, I might be teaching this lesson. Now you see where it starts to become interesting, because now the teacher doesn't have to remember all the units included in a given lesson. Because they are in molecular biology, the system automatically populates for them every lesson that are included in this course. Well, with experience, of course, teachers get to a point where they are able to remember by heart this information with experience. But not everybody is a teacher, and not everybody wants to memorize all the units in a given subject. So now he gets a pre-filled information with the unit of this lesson, molecular biology, added here. And now he can set up a lesson title. This is up to him. He said, I will teach electrolysis. I'm the best at it. Well, this would be a provocation to the DOS if something was so humorous, with such humor, of course, it must be serious. Okay, and there is certain fields that they are required to fill while filling a lesson, while adding a lesson to the lesson scheme, to the scheme of work, sorry. So there is the evaluation method they're gonna use, the teaching method they're gonna use, the resources they're gonna use, and the observation. This they add here. I have a special need kid in my class. And then I add this lesson to the scheme of work, and voila! Now I have a lesson scheduled to be taught from, when was that? Let me see my scheme of work. View lessons. Alright, now I have a molecular biology lesson scheduled to be taught from November 9th to September, from September 9th to September 15th, with 37 units is unit 37. This is just an ID. The evaluation method is this, the teaching method is this, the resources is this, and the observation is I have a special need kid in my class. That's it. And this goes on and on. He can he has to add all the lessons he will be teaching for this term, for this course, for this subject, up to the end of the term. And this information, once it's been digitized, goes into the secure EJO database, where it can now be retrieved, compiled, compared by whatever and whoever has the necessary access. So this is a step above way to control what teachers are teaching and when they are teaching it. This is starting to be interesting for everybody who needs who need to inspect the progress of the course. Why not even the parent? I think that now you are starting to see from the flow of the application how it goes. Now we are starting to reach, when we begin it's just like data, and now it's becoming to take shape and form and becoming more like information that somebody could actually be interested in. Okay, so now we have the scheme of work, and remember that this scheme of work is a must for every teacher in the country, and it is a mandatory practice that is directed by REB that every teacher must do. But does REB have a way of controlling which teacher and which teacher is not filling up their scheme of works on a per term basis? For the moment, I don't think they do. So let's just move ahead yeah, now we have our scheme of work well created here with lessons. So next step, this is the task that they will do usually at the beginning of the term. They will set up the courses they'll be teaching, the classes they'll be teaching in, and all the various lessons up to the end of the term. And this task that they do it every term, okay? Now we move to the daily task of every teacher, which is the creation of lesson plans. Now when I click on lesson plan, I see that there are no lesson plan here on the system. Once a teacher has created his scheme of work, there is another daily routine of critical importance that teachers undergo every time they have to give a course. That is the filling of a lesson plan. A lesson plan is the instructor's roadmap of what students need to learn and how it will be done effectively during the class time. Lesson plan includes information such as lesson topics, class objectives, procedure, time management, and student practices. Just like the scheme of work phase, this process, although rich in data and information, is largely not digitized, because every semblance of digitization happens in the form of a Word document that is printed in paper form, which is not a format that can be used to achieve large scale and or individual assessment over a certain period of time. Moreover, to the detriment of most of our teachers, this process tends to become extremely repetitive with redundant information. They are required to fill in topics and class objectives, etc., all this information that is already present in the syllabuses and should just be pre-filled for convenience and ease of access. Teachers shouldn't waste 10 minutes of a 40 minutes lesson filling the same information over and over again, when this can be and has been easily automated by EJO Africa. So this is how a typical filling of a lesson plan goes with our application. As I said, we click on lesson plan and we click on add. The little plus sign button always means add, and we select the academic year, the term, and okay, let me just go back to the scheme of work and create another lesson. We're gonna need at least 2 in this scheme of work. Add lesson. Well, this lesson will be taught from let's say November 9th to December 30th, and the lesson unit is again electrolysis and application. The title is "We will go to the lab this time." Evaluation, teaching method, resources, and observation. Add lesson to scheme of work. Well, the lesson has been added. Now I go back to my lesson plan, and there is none for the moment. So what I'm gonna do, we're gonna need at least to have a second unit, and if you remember correctly, the units are populated by the Director of Studies. Let's add a new unit to this lesson for purposes of good presentation. Okay, Galaxy DOS at john.com. This is the Director of Study. So let's just add in our courses here, view topics, view subtopics. We only have electrolysis as a unit. We're gonna add units, view units, electrolysis and its applications. Let's just add a new unit maybe. Title. I'm just gonna go ahead and copy one from the actual syllabus. Chlorine and its inorganic compound. Okay. Number of periods 15. Key unit competencies, let's just write key, knowledge, skills, attitudes, content, learning, links, assessment, and materials. Okay, I add the unit to course 20. The unit has been created. Now I'm gonna need to go back to login as a teacher. I just needed this new unit for purposes of demonstration. So I'm gonna go ahead and log back in as a teacher. That is Galaxy teacher at john.com with his password, of course. And I was creating a lesson plan which I haven't finished creating. Now I got 2 units here and here. I need to access this over a secure connection. Once. Okay, so I just needed to switch to a secure connection so that the form here can go back and fetch, you know, this little HTTPS thing. It's actually a secure connection, and I was browsing the site through an insecure connection, and this form wouldn't fetch the information I needed because it detected that the connection was insecure. That's just some technical stuff, but that's not why we are here for the moment. So now I'm trying to create my lesson plan. As we say, the lesson plan contains a lot of information. This form is quite huge, but it's much easier to fill this than actually going through the whole filling it manually on a daily basis, because you can actually fill this using your mobile phone, and you don't have to waste time going and fetching printing paper, filling it with a pen and returning it to the director of study. You can just log in as a teacher, as this Galaxy teacher, academic year, first term, the date is today. Of course, usually you fill in the lesson plan for the day you're about to teach, when you're about to go to class, molecular biology, senior 5, the unit, electrolysis and its application. So the reason I went back to create a second unit is because I wanted to highlight this feature, and I need you to follow up how the logic works here. So a unit basically goes into a scheme of work that a teacher fills at the beginning of the term when they are planning how they'll be teaching for the entire term. So if there is a unit that they have not created the lesson for in the scheme of work, this is what will happen. So this unit I just created, chlorine and its inorganic compound, doesn't have any lesson associated with for this teacher in the scheme of work. What happens when a teacher tries to select that they are going to teach chlorine and its inorganic compound? The application tells them that there is no lesson in this unit. Please go to the latest scheme of work for this course and add a lesson in this unit. So basically what this means, the teacher cannot claim to go to teach something that they did not report that they will be teaching at the beginning of the term. So it's not just some random act. He cannot just today decide to teach chlorine and its inorganic compound when he hadn't added this course, created a lesson in the scheme of work for this lesson. So this kind of control is why we need digitization of these forms. Because if it was on paper, a teacher could just decide, for whatever reasons, that today they're gonna teach from molecular biology, electrolysis and its application. It's okay for that because they had basically scheduled it. They scheduled that they will be teaching this in their scheme of work. But now, if they try to go into a class and teach this chlorine and its inorganic compound, the application doesn't get it. Basically, what the app is saying is you didn't schedule that you will be teaching chlorine and its inorganic compound at the beginning of the term. Now you are in the middle of the term, you are about to head to class, and you say that you are going to teach chlorine and its inorganic compound. Please go back to your scheme of work, add this course, schedule it, then come back to create a lesson plan and fill it up that we are going to teach it. So this is what this control means here, and it's very key. It prevents teachers from teaching things that they did not say that they would be teaching. Alright, so the only thing that we had scheduled in our scheme of work for the beginning of the term was electrolysis and its application. Now when I select electrolysis and its application, the lessons that comes from my scheme of work automatically fills up here, and this is the one I have. We'll go to the lab this time. Okay, and the duration of the lesson, it will last 40 minutes. The class size, depending, I have 12 students present. This is all information that is required for them to fill on paper, but now they can fill it using their mobile devices. Type of special educational need to be catered, this is something that they know how to fill. Data, let me just write data, again data, I'm just adding dummy data. There we go, and I add my lesson plan. Lesson plan has been successfully added. So when I go back to my lesson plans, I see that on November 9th, I'm teaching molecular biology and I am teaching electrolysis and its application. Before we move on, I want to show you something important. And the important thing I want to show you is the format that they have given us on paper. EJO Africa will preserve this in case they ever need to print. Let's say the director of study needs a printed version of this. And all they have to do is access this lesson plan and click on the print button here, and they will get a version, a printable version, that when they do Control P, that they can send to their printer and get back to the traditional way that they used to do it. So this is how it looked. This is what it looked like. This is what on paper the LDK had given us. So you had the school name here, the term, the date, the subject, the class, the unit number, the lesson number, the duration, the class size, the type of education needs to be catered for, category, the unit title, the key competency, the title of the lesson. And this is another thing. The key competency here, they used to fill it manually. Now it just gets fetched from the syllabus, from the course that the director of study had created. They don't have to fill this every day. All they have to do is select molecular biology, electrolysis and its application, and the key competency will come from the database. The title of the lesson will go to the lab this time. This is something that the teacher has filled in himself. Instruction objectives, plan for this class. Is it location in or outside? Learning materials, references, and all the information they usually fill up on paper is still available in the exact same format. If they want this printed, they can still get this printed, but the added advantage here is that now we, as enabler of digitization, we have all this information captured and digitalized for future use. And believe me, we put this to very, very good use. Alright, so this is how a lesson plan is created. I'm gonna exit the printing screen. Okay. So this is how a lesson plan is created. If you have any question, please ask the EJO agent presenting this video. Most likely it's still me. I might be seated here or there. The EJO app includes a module to mark students, an exam module here. So the EJO app, I was saying, includes a module to mark students in the traditional sense of the way that we are going to see afterward. Except our marking system is far from traditional, as it incorporates 5 more dimensions to not just saying, for example, this student got 5 out of 20 or 17 out of 20. As stated above, we believe that at EJO that we have to move beyond the binary view of this student has 5 out of 20, so he's ignorant or stupid, meaning he's not smart, or he has 17 out of 20, meaning he's smart. In order to get real meaning, let's stop judging a fish by its ability to climb a tree. And before we can get into the module of how marks are, how we mark, we think students should be marked using the Bloom taxonomy notation. We need to understand the Bloom taxonomy. So before we get into the marking and exam module for students, we're gonna have to go through a short presentation of what Bloom is in a small video. Let's watch together. So what exactly is Bloom? Here is a small video presentation.
Rosa, a form tutor.
Okay, so let me just begin this video. It's available on YouTube. You can watch it.
First students have recently completed learning a module on human evolution. Meet Miss Rosa, a form tutor. Her students have recently completed learning a module on human evolution. She wants to assess them on their knowledge and understanding of the concepts. It's her firm belief that a fish cannot be assessed for its ability to climb a tree. She understands that every student is an individual learner and has different skill sets and abilities. Hence, she wants to devise an assessment that can do justice to all her students. That's when she came across Bloom's taxonomy, a model to classify learning objectives with appropriate verbs. It is a hierarchical framework for categorizing educational learning objectives according to their complexity. It was created by Benjamin Bloom, who was an American psychiatrist who made several contributions to education, talent development, and mastery learning. So, let's have a look at how Miss Rosa assesses her students based on Bloom's taxonomy. Currently, Bloom's taxonomy has 6 levels of cognitive domains. The lowest level of Bloom's taxonomy is to remember. Here, Ms. Rosa checks if her students are able to recall the different stages of human evolution. Few of the verbs used to identify this level are retrieve, recognize, and recall. The next stage is to understand. It is also known as comprehension. Here, Ms. Rosa's students are assessed on their ability to summarize the different stages of human evolution in their own words. The students who are able to meet this level exhibit a deeper understanding of the concepts as compared to the previous stage. Few of the verbs used to identify this level are classify, explain, and express. The third stage is to apply. This is the application stage where students use their knowledge gained in a new situation. Here, Ms. Rosa's students need to be able to use their knowledge gained about human evolution to predict the future of the human race. Use, predict, and demonstrate are a few of the verbs used to identify this level. The fourth level of Bloom's taxonomy is to analyze, wherein the concepts are examined in detail and broken down into parts. At this level, Ms. Rosa's students need to be able to investigate the stages of human evolution and find evidence to support the same. Few of the verbs used to identify this level are research, establish, and appraise. The next level is to evaluate, that is, to make a judgment. At this stage, Ms. Rosa's students should be able to present, defend, and justify their viewpoints on human evolution. They should also be able to critique the same. Verbs like persuade, validate, and support are used to identify this level. Bloom's taxonomy's last level of learning is to create, where the students possess the ability to build on what they learn. At this stage, Ms. Rosa's students should be able to transform their knowledge of human evolution to design relevant projects. An example of this could be creating a virtual museum with relevant artifacts. Few of the verbs used to identify this level are develop, compose, and formulate. Those were the 6 levels of Bloom's taxonomy. With the help of this assessment tool, Ms. Rosa was able to correctly assess her students' understanding of the human evolution module. On that note, here's a question for you.
Alright, that is enough. So this was just a brief, small introduction of the Bloom taxonomy notation that is used to assess students in a way that doesn't discriminate between those who get high grades and those who don't get such good grade. So as we saw in the video, the Bloom taxonomy notation is divided into different components that when you log into our application as a teacher and are about to set up an exam, exams is a module that is part of the teacher's marking. Now that we understand what is and what Bloom is and how it works, Bloom taxonomy, we can now see how we integrated this concept in the way our application analyzes students' marks on a given exam course. So we log into the teachers module and we can add an exam. And when we are configuring our exam, look at the interesting fact here is we have to set up a title. Let's say exam about molecular biology, description, And the class is Senior 5, the course is Molecular Biology, first term, academic year, and I'm the teacher, of course. So, and now I have to set up, depending on how my exam is made, I have to decide the remembering amount, how much of the marks are considered, how much percentage of the marks goes to the ability a student has to remember, how much percentage of the marks goes to the student's ability to understand, how much percentage of the mark goes to the student's ability to apply, and how much percentage of the marks goes to the student's ability to analyze, and how much percentage of the marks the student has goes to the student's ability to evaluate, and finally how much marks goes to the student's ability to create. As per REB's directive, this is not an arbitrary thing that we decided. We have been directed throughout the course of our development of the app to set as remembering 30% of the marks for any course goes to the ability to remember. 20% of the marks or any course goes to the ability to understand. 20% to the ability to apply, 10% to the analysis ability, 10% to the evaluation ability, and 10% to the creative capability. These numbers 30, 20, 20, 10, 10, 10 are set up from our point of view to be the official Bloom notation taxonomy that will be used in Rwanda for the coming years, because they have been given to us by REB itself. And why would you ask now if it is official and directed by REB, why do we give the teacher the ability to set this by himself? Initially, when we developed this module, we had thought that it was the teacher himself that had to decide, depending on the exam he was giving his student, whether he set it up in a way that this was much more about creativity or about evaluation, about analysis, about application, understanding, or remembering. But then we were asked to make it standard 30, 20, 20, 10, 10, 10, and we try to strike a balance between the two. So the government give us a directive that we have to comply with, and the teacher can tell you that no, for this exam it's all about remembering. There is no much analysis included. So we take the default values that the government gave us, that REB gave us, and we embed them as default values. As you can see, when the teacher is configuring his exam, the default values are all there. Unless he's a teacher who really knows what he's doing with Bloom, he has no reason whatsoever to alter these values. So I'm just gonna leave them as they are, and I'll create this exam. Now the exam has been created, and I have an exam about molecular biology, and this is the Bloom notation for this exam, and it's for Senior 5. Okay, now how do I mark my students for this exam? I'm gonna go to the student module, and I'm just gonna mark this student, Galaxy student. I'll give him maybe overall score for this exam about molecular biology, give him a score of 80. Mark student. The student has been successfully marked. Now when I go to my student list, I can view the Bloom score for this student. And now here I have information based on those percentages that we discussed earlier, on a total of this student basically has scored these marks for remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. And okay, and this was for a simple report for this student. So the analysis for how Bloom works is an algorithm that is something that we cannot, as EJO, decide to impose on the school system of Rwanda. This is something that's gonna have to be done alongside the the necessary authorities that will direct how these algorithms that calculate bloom has to work. And yeah, basically that was it. Okay, so now another module for students. There is the diary module and the attendance module, where we get to send messages to stakeholders that will display in the mobile app. Let's say diary message. This is a message that can be shared with parents. So I add a diary for the students in case it's a disciplinary thing, and I can also mark attendance for these students, whether they are present or absent. This is also a module that is very important in the analysis of students and their behavior and final global orientation that a student. Now with this information we can, for example, know that if this student is failing, it may be because either they were very absent or the teacher wasn't making attendance enough. So I thank you for following this brief introduction on the back-end workings of our application. This video has been long enough. Thank you for bearing with me. I'm gonna stop by there, and next thing we're gonna do, and hopefully if we have time, is to install the actual mobile app of EJO in the devices of everybody that's following this video, and have them subscribed as parents, have them assigned children, and make some communication tests and see if they get access easily to the marks of their children. And I suppose everybody can be excited for that, especially those who are parents and have children in school. So I'm gonna ask the presenter of EJO Africa Limited to share the installer among the attendees, that we can run this live physical test and see if we can have good communication between the EJO database, between various stakeholders, teachers, and the mobile app and the devices of the users. Thank you again for following this video. It has been great sharing this with you. My name is Liambi Willie. I'm the Chief Technical Officer at EJO Africa Limited. I hope it was enjoyable for you, entertaining. See you next time. Bye-bye.